Hey everyone, Jacobs here. Today's topic is the best Christopher Nolan's films from Insomnia to Oppenheimer. The rise of Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker has been a fascinating one. The guy is, undoubtedly, one of a very few numbers of directors who have the clout to do pretty much whatever they want, despite the fact that he only has 12 features to his name. The latest one is Oppenheimer. At a time when Steven Spielberg has trouble gathering financing for his projects, the combination of Christopher Nolan's unfailing box office success and high critical praise makes him a low-risk prospect for any major studio, even if you're greenlighting a budget of, say, $165 million for an original sci-fi epic. But while Nolan is now pretty much the consummate prestige blockbuster filmmaker, he didn't start off making massive films. Nolan began by making incredibly small-scale films, slowly working his way up to his first blockbuster. So given the importance, talent, and impact of Nolan, it feels prudent to look back on his filmography as a whole by ranking each and every film from worst to best, of course. Following. Nolan's ultra-low-budget 1998 directorial debut was cobbled together while he was working full-time, using available light and cheap film stock. It does feel very much like a student effort, ambitious, awkward, bursting with ideas, but often downright amateurish. Still, you can see the talent, and there are lots of fascinating elements here that would re-emerge later. Anybody interested in the director's films should check this one out, but its technical limitations, combined with Nolan's own inexperience, make it one of his weaker works. The Dark Knight Rises. Nolan followed up the runaway worldwide success of The Dark Knight with a look at Batman brought low, his back broken by Bane and thrown in a pit prison where he's forced to watch Gotham destroyed from afar. This one doesn't get enough credit for how effectively it captures the hero's feeling of helplessness. As the city's bridges and buildings are leveled, its people pitted against one another, the very fabric of society ripped asunder. For anyone who's been following Bruce Wayne's efforts to try and make Gotham a better place, this is all quite heartbreaking to watch. There's plenty of great stuff here, from Anne Hathaway's jaded, sassy Catwoman to some eye-popping action sequences. But at times it seems as if the director has bitten off more than he can chew, as he wrestles with effectively trying to convey the villain's evil plan. Plus, in order to truly show the breakdown of society and the existential threat this represents, Nolan needs to condemn the people of Gotham a bit. But he pulls back, settling instead on vagaries. Tenet. There are parts of Tenet that feel like they were crafted as a direct response to those who criticized Inception for being too exposition-heavy. Nolan's most oblique film to date, a sprawling, ornate action thriller in which the heroes can invert their passage through time so that they experience car chases and fights and all sorts of other things in reverse, is also one of his most ambitious, and weirdly, one of his lightest. Tenet is a movie built out of brilliant, often beautiful set pieces whose overall placement in the broader puzzle is not always clear. The idea that our future selves can hold sway over our present-day selves is an adorably Nolan-esque notion that plays out across pictures like Memento, Interstellar, and Inception. And how wonderful it is to see a filmmaker tackle a big modern genre movie in such challenging fashion, and on such a massive scale. Maybe some will call it a flop, but if it is, it's the kind of flop that only Christopher Nolan could have made. Insomnia. This adaptation of the 1997 Norwegian crime thriller, about a troubled cop with a past who, while investigating a murder in small-town Alaska, accidentally kills his partner and then tries to cover up his crime, showed that the director could go from making low-budget indies to successful studio projects. He has said that in many ways, this was the most important stepping stone in his career, because it allowed him to ease into big-budget filmmaking. Insomnia is impressive in many regards. Al Pacino is effectively haunted as the lead, and Robin Williams, at the time eagerly trying to shed his image as a cloying funny man, is appropriately creepy and pathetic as the suspected murderer. But the movie is also, at times, dreadfully dull. The somnambulant mood may be partly intentional, but it's also wearying. Batman Begins. It didn't seem at all likely that Christopher Nolan would be the one to reinvent the modern superhero movie. His forte seemed to be mindfuck thrillers, not action spectacles. And this was before young, newish directors were regularly handed billion-dollar franchises. But his take on Batman, immeasurably aided by Christian Bale, still the most talented actor ever to play the Caped Crusader, was both brilliant and deceptively simple. Batman had always been the relatable superhero, the one who didn't have magic powers, just money, vengeance, and will. So why not give us a Batman grounded in something resembling reality? Bruce Wayne's transformation into the Dark Knight is presented with uncommon psychological realism, set in motion by a somewhat plausible series of events that explain how he became such a determined, effective fighter. Oh, and Katie Holmes seems strangely miscast as Bruce Wayne's love interest or moral North Star. Memento. An absolutely ingenious thriller, the story, told in reverse, of a man who's been trying to avenge his wife's death, but his mind can't form memories, and he forgets who, where, and what he is within minutes, so he has to tattoo his clues on his body in order not to forget them. It's an ideal marriage of structure and subject matter, as the nature of the storytelling ensures that we in the audience never really know what has happened before any given scene, which mimics the protagonist's existential haze. This put Nolan on the map with its release in 2000, and is still considered his masterpiece by many fans. Does it lose some luster once you've figured it out? Not quite, though nothing can match that electrifying first viewing. Dunkirk, an astonishing war movie, and perhaps the culmination of Nolan's various experiments in editing and structure. In retelling the British evacuation of France in 1940, the result of an early disastrous defeat against the Nazis, the director intercuts 3 narrative timelines of differing lengths, which leads to some surprising twists and turns in the story. But perhaps more importantly, it's a film that shows Nolan willing to let go a little bit, to trust his audience to get what he's doing without his having to resort to lots of exposition and dialogue. In the process, it does away with many of the cliches of the war genre. No strategy meetings, no scenes of people explaining what we're fighting for, etc. Instead, it's tight, terse, and tense from its opening frame to its last. For what it's worth, and somewhat ironically. The Dark Knight. If nothing else, this is one of the most influential movies of our time. The entire DC universe of superhero tentpoles has basically been built around its success, but none of its imitators have come close to matching the sweep and power of Nolan's second Batman entry, which is really a gangster epic masquerading as a superhero flick. And at the center of it all is one of the great performances of the decade, with the late Heath Ledger's wild, disturbing, charismatic turn as the Joker making a perfect foil for Christian Bale's stolid, wounded, tormented Batman. With a story that could easily have made for 3 separate movies, and each insane set piece topped by the next one, this is the rare comic book film that earns the obsessive quality of its fandom. That's also because Nolan doesn't shy away from tackling philosophical, moral, and political issues. Nearly a decade after its release, you can still go down any number of rabbit holes thinking about The Dark Knight. There are very few movies, in any genre, about which you can say that. The Prestige, Nolan's sole literary adaptation, based on Christopher Priest's 1995 novel, also features his most subtle, complex characters. As dueling magicians in turn-of-the-century London, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale are both charming and sinister in their obsessions with one another. Maybe that's why, unlike so many other films that rely on puzzle-like structures and big twists, The Prestige continues to work so well on repeat viewings. If anything, it improves and gains depth the more you watch it. It's also a dazzling magic trick in its own right, with an intricate plot that keeps doubling back on itself and throwing red herrings at us. As in so many Nolan pictures, the movie's structure and its effect on the viewer echo the character's own psychological journeys. Nolan understands something about his audience. He lays out everything we need to figure out what's happening, but it's all just a bit too macabre for us to put 2 and 2 together. So, we wait until that incredibly disturbing final image. Inception. Consider this for a second. Nolan made a movie about high-tech thieves who break into people's dreams and steal hidden ideas from them. But this time they are asked to secretly plant an idea in a person's head, so they go into that person's dream. But in order to hide their actions, they have to go several dreams down, so they have to create a dream inside the guy's dream, so they can go into the next dream, then do it again. But they can't go too far down the dream levels because if they do, they'll be stuck in a dream forever, and their brains will melt. And also, each level of a dream happens at a different speed, so that 5 minutes in the real world is an hour in dream time, and things slow down even further the deeper you go within the dreams. But anything that happens in one dream can affect the dream in the next level. Now consider this. Inception was beloved by millions and made $825 million worldwide. Fact: Christopher Nolan knows how to tell a goddamn story. Interstellar. One of the saddest, loneliest space epics ever made. Nolan's expansive sci-fi film. about Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway traveling through a wormhole to another part of the universe in an effort to find a new home for humanity, was divisive when it came out, but it's slowly being acknowledged as one of his best works. It's certainly his most earnest movie, and maybe the mixture of eye-popping special effects, gee-whiz scientific phenomena, environmental dystopia, and unabashed sentiment was too much for some to take, as if 2001. A space odyssey had been hijacked by someone's therapy session. At heart, this is a story about parents and children, about the fear of letting go, about the need to reconcile your dreams with the needs of your loved ones. At the same time, it's a movie about survival, how planetary survival and species survival and individual survival often conflict with one another. The way Nolan ties these concepts together in a narrative that mixes heavy-duty scientific theories with nutty sci-fi invention can be jarring. But open yourself up to it, and Interstellar becomes one of the most emotionally overwhelming things you'll ever see. It might also be the most hopeful picture Nolan has ever made. So, there are every Christopher Nolan's film from worst to best. Do you agree? Let me know in the comment. And oh yeah, don't forget to watch Nolan's 12th film, which also will be his next masterpiece, Oppenheimer in IMAX, July 21st, 2023. If there's any topic that you want me to discuss, please comment below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, also turn notification on. See you on the next video.